Hello and welcome to GovTech Viewpoints. My name is Teri Takai and I am so excited to be here today with Todd Gustafson and Larry Meadows for our next interesting and fun conversation. Now, just a reminder for any of you that have missed any of our episodes, each of our episodes really pinpoints one big question that's facing state and local government decision makers as they really look ahead. And today's topic, I think, is extremely important because it's really about the overall workforce experience. You know, we've been through a lot of change. We've gone from remote work to hybrid work, but we really need to zero in on what does that really mean for our workforce and what their experience is. Because again, if we don't have a really committed workforce, we're not going to get the kind of productivity and the kind of real innovative ideas that we're really looking for, really to be able to energize government overall. All right, so let's get started. So Todd, let's start with you and kind of step back from the overall kind of workforce experience. And really, let's talk about how is it changing? What does it mean? And how are governments really going to need to step up their game?
Thanks, Teri. Good to see you as always. It's a beautiful day here in New England. You can see the leaves behind me, so great to be with all of you. You know, one of the things that HP did and has conducted over the last 2 years is they have focused on what we consider to be the future of work. And as a result of that, one of the surveys that we've conducted across tens of thousands of organizations globally, for that matter, is what is the experience that users have with technology and how do they feel about their job and how do they feel about their contribution? And what's really remarkable, and it was frankly quite a surprise to me and I think to many others, was that in terms of job satisfaction technology and having the index, if you will, you know, less than 25% of respondents responded favorably, which is kind of shocking, responded favorably in terms of that engagement that they had, right? And in a lot of cases, their engagement with their mobile phone was higher, but in terms of the technology that was deployed in their environment was fairly low. And so when you think about the advent of AI and what's happening, the power of the workforce to be able to deliver to constituents, to taxpayers, to users in our community are more omnipresent than ever. And we've taken what I would tell you is that that telemetry of data and applied it in a solution that is really getting both users and administrators, if you will, CIOs, in terms of approaching how do we measure that more efficiently. And not only how does it, when we think about efficiency, I'm thinking about efficiency in terms of savings for state and local governments, as an example, but also efficiency in terms of productivity of the employees in the environment. And so you're going to hear in just a moment, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Larry Meadows, who's the smarter one in the room versus me. Talk a little bit about how this is applying in government environments in particular. And how that could play, and why, at a minimum, it's incumbent upon IT leaders to investigate this approach for their team members and colleagues. Larry, please let me introduce you, and why don't you just spend a minute, just talk a little bit about what we call WXP platform is and why it matters.
Sure thing. Thanks, Todd, and hello from Southern Indiana. After a week in Orlando, Florida. It's a little bit chillier here, that's for sure. As Todd, you said, workforce experience platform. I lead product strategy and evangelism around what we're doing with employee engagement and fleet monitoring solutions. How do we help IT leaders better understand kind of what I call the 5 core questions, right? What do I have? Who has it? Where is it? How's it working? How do I make it work better? And I hear consistently from everyone I talk to in a public sector role, I've yet to talk to anyone who said, hey, we have unlimited funds next year and we want to just go all out, right? It's not a lot different than talking to a commercial customer. It's like, hey, how do I get more out of the investments that I'm making?
Right.
How do I make sure that Todd has the right device he needs to do his job? And how do I make sure Teri has the right device she has to do her job? And that's really where we're honing in on workforce experience platform. We have the ability, Todd, like you had said, around this idea that about 76% of employees have told us that they do not feel they have the tools, the space, the technology to be successful at work. And that's not just commercial. That is no matter where you work. And couple that with IT leaders have 3 versions of every employee they're supporting, right? The employee who's working from home, the employee in the office, and sometimes it'll be the employee at the coffee shop, or maybe they're traveling in at a conference or something. They have to contend with different internet speeds, different peripheral setups. They hopefully have the one device with them. If they're like me, they forgot the headset and, couldn't, you had to take calls on a speakerphone, and that's fine. But how do we make sure that what they have is working to the extent that it needs to, while also creating a secure environment? How do we protect threats from coming in during all these different remote areas? And talking about mobile phones, right? We all have about 3 things that connect: mobile phones, tablets, PCs, and each of them have a unique set of telemetry and that tells us how they're performing. They're all hitting our networks, and they're all potentially opening up. So how do we take advantage of understanding the opportunity to not only improve the security posture, make sure that your firewalls are enabled and antivirus is up to date, but literally look at what are the things that are impacting the performance of these devices? Battery degradation, or hard drives full or not performing as well, high history of OS crashes, and what can we do to fix it? And Todd and Teri, that's where I think Workforce Experience Platform really can help any customer throughout that state and local government arena really get the most out of what they're using, making sure that the right device is in the right hands for every employee.
Todd, well, I loved what Larry just said. It gave, such a great perspective. But I want to hone in. I think that one of the things that he said that's so important is the ability not only to see what's going on, but actually to start to understand what we have to do to help everyone be more effective.
So let me try to draw a parallel. Many of us have likely been to a rock concert at some point in our life. And at some point when you were there, you saw some folks that were sitting, likely watching the stage, and they had this big mixer board, if you will, right? And it had a number of dials that were on that mixer board. And the primary reason that they had that mixer board was to provide the best possible experience, because they know that that just volume and lights on and off was not the best way to provide a unique experience. Well, if you draw that parallel, we're doing the same thing with a number of telemetry points, if you will, in terms of, is the BIOS up to date? Is the persona of the device that you're providing to your users the best possible persona? And let me give you an example. Most organizations will do a good, better, best strategy. And it might shock everyone that's listening to this that everyone thinks that they need the best possible product, right? And oh, by the way, it costs the most. Well, this tool can tell you, as an example, how are you performing in that environment? Is your utilization at 80 or 90%? You might need something different. Or the flip side of that is we've given you the best device, however, you're using only 20% utilization. Why is that? And when we think about our refresh strategy, how might we apply it? How we might take some of this telemetry and integrate it with our ServiceNow platform in a way, because one of our challenges for our IT leaders is tickets, right? Service tickets. Yeah. And how do they reduce those service tickets in a way? Or if we're going out and we're going to go repair a product, we may determine that there are other users in the environment that have battery health issues. How do we repair those at that same time? So there's all these knobs, if you will, when you think back to my rock concert example, that we can dial in a way that give you the best possible outcome, and a dashboard that can tell you very simply. On top of that, we're layering in AI technology so that you can say, as an example, who are the 10% of my user communities that's experiencing the most network degradation, as an example, and get an answer like that and provide a better outcome for each of them.
By the way, I'm one of those that says I got to have everything. Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
So, Larry, how are you going to control somebody like me?
Well, Teri, we call it smart refresh inside the platform. And at HP, we've been doing it since 2020. Pretty much the entire world became a remote workforce in 2020, right? And we started looking at how do we prioritize customers? How do we prioritize those buying from us in getting them PCs during supply chain constraints, and look at who needs a new PC inside of HP? And what that let us do is instead focus on things like CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization. And we carry that forward 5 years. And inside a workforce experience platform, the smart research capability is built on kind of three things. One, it's the inventory management. What do you actually have in your catalog? What did you define as that good, better, best in the 3, 4, 5 devices that make up your fleet that you deploy to users? Number two, we look at how the current devices are being used and we grade them as whether they are healthy, unhealthy, refresh now, based on CPU, memory utilization, percentage of time that they're overutilized, the memory configuration, and whether or not it can take a memory upgrade, and items like that. And then the third piece, which is probably my favorite, is the AI model that Todd was referencing. One of its uses is it will build a profile of every user in your system, and it will look at it and it will say, these are the programs that are used most often by Todd. He always has Edge open with 112 tabs. He's also got to have Chrome open because he can't find one of the tabs in Edge, and so he had to open up Chrome and give something new. But he's got, Teams open and Zoom open. He's also running PowerPoint and Excel. And what are the things taking up memory on him, and how is it working, as well as how does the hardware set up? Is it always docked? Is it always plugged in? Is it always connected to a display? And we classify him then as what is his type. For me, I was a road warrior office collaborator. And what that meant was I needed a device that was easy for me to take with me everywhere I go. It was going to work well on a plane. It was going to work well in customer meetings. It had the right AMD chip in there that was going to make sure that it was lightning fast and worked for me. But what I will tell you, Teri, is how do we solve it for you? Is I had the best. I had a wonderful machine. It was a ZBook Fury workstation. And it will do anything you want, and I never had a problem with it. But it weighs 8 pounds, and I travel 60% of the time. So I didn't want the best. I wanted like the best minus 7 pounds. And so now I'm actually getting to run, a G1Q that has the right chip. It has the NPU in it, and moving through there. But better yet, it's 1.7 pounds. It's 13-inch instead of 15-inch. It opens up nice on the seat in front of me, and it matches my work style so much better. Now, the beautiful thing is my old workstation did not get pushed away. What we did is we identified someone who was always overutilized, and my machine was a better machine for that user, and it got refurbished and repurposed over there, and it continued its lifespan through there. And I would imagine that our public sector customers want that same thing. How do I get not 3 years out of a device, but how do I get 5 years, 6 years? How do I make sure that the investment that I made is going to last for me a long time, not just from the investment standpoint, but from the sustainability commitments that they have with those customers? And I think that's what is going to allow us, smart refresh with the AI personas, is going to allow us to identify who gets great based on what is actually great for them and how they work versus what is great based on the specs of the device.
I love that terminology, in terms of really smart refresh, because you're absolutely right. I mean, having been a CIO, we would just clear the decks in a third, and then a third, and then another third. And then we were always, what do we do, with the equipment we have left? So I really like that sort of fiscal responsibility side of this, as well as, it's just sort of the practical nature. And I also love the fact that this came because of HP and you yourselves having to deal with how do you, in fact, look at how you equip your teams and your employees. So that's a part that I think is really great, is that this really came from your experiences.
It did. And I'll, add before I hand off to Todd here that internally, we charge MSRP in between departments when they're purchasing new computers. Yes, we make them, but there's still cross charges. Shifting over to a performance-based instead of 3-year laptop, 4-year desktop, and using performance data actually lowered our refresh costs across the entire company well into the 20%. And wow. We have 55,000 employees, 80,000 devices. When you knock off double digits of that, that's a pretty good chunk of change that anybody can take advantage of.
Teri, if I could, I know we're running along here, but let me just mention we also this will come as a shock to everyone. Make printers. We make great printers, and we've been making printers for a really long time. And one of the things that print has done for a really long time is understand the telemetry of their devices.
Yeah.
Are they working? Is there toner? Does it need to be serviced? Does it need paper? Is it connected to the network? Does it have the right security? So all that experience that we've had for 35 plus years from a print standpoint, we've brought through, if you will, to the client side. And as importantly, we've learned that in the print space, it had to work in a heterogeneous environment, right? While it worked well in an HP environment, it had to cover a lot of different platforms. So we've taken all that IQ, if you will, and transferred it, and we leverage the same exact platform for print and PC. And as importantly, it needs to work in a heterogeneous environment on the PC side. So whether it's a Chrome environment, a Windows environment, or our hybrid OEM environment, it covers all that. So it's not a homogeneous environment, if you will.
That's a great point, Todd. And Teri, let me add to that is we have customers saying, why, don't keep surrounding me with portals. Don't give me a print portal and a PC portal and a software portal. How do we bring this together into more of a single common CMDB? And, we also do collaboration tools and video endpoints that are showing all of our faces on today's screen. We can see those as well, but we also extend it to the quality of the meetings so that we can see who has a poor network connection versus a great network connection and what's impacting the quality of what you see. So it's a pretty complete solution for the entire IT investment.
Wow.
Teri, I know we're getting to the end, right? And here's my recommendation. We work with a number of states. One in particular out in the West has done this across their entire environment. Other states are starting. But the key is, what I would say is, start a little bit small. Pick a department, if you will, to bear this out. And there's a lot of learnings that come with it. It's a relatively inexpensive approach to be able to drive efficiency and improve the workforce experience. That would be my recommendation in terms of how you do this. If you think about biting a big chunk, probably won't be successful. But this department approach at start can really bear out what we're talking about today.
Outstanding. Well, thanks, Todd. I think that is a great piece of advice, because I think it is daunting for everybody to get started. Well, this was just a fantastic conversation. Thanks so much, Larry and Todd. I think this is a different take on the employee experience than what we've really talked about before. And I think it's something that state and local governments also should really think about as they're really driving into how they're going to manage their budgets in terms of this kind of uncertain environment. Well, to our audience, thanks for listening to another GovTech Viewpoint. Please be sure to subscribe to the series on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify so you won't miss another episode. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next GovTech Viewpoints. Larry, Todd, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you.